everything you need to know about a Ford F-150 Raptor. The Ford F-150 Raptor, a truck that barely needs an introduction because since 2010, Ford Raptors have been tearing up the road, turning heads everywhere they go. You see, in the early 2000s, you had companies like Audi coming up with the R8, which was a new halo vehicle that was intended to bring fans to the brand. And in 2010, when Ford came out with the Ford F-150 Raptor, it was something that had never been seen before on the truck market. It was a factory-produced off-road monster that also had some unbelievable performance specs as well. No other manufacturers were making anything like this, and when you pulled up with a Ford F-150 Raptor, you made a statement everywhere you go. Now, the first generation back in 2010 was really cool because it came with a V8 engine with over 300 horsepower and actually came in a kind of regular cab configuration, which was obviously intended to give it the most high performance output. You could have unbelievable speed because your truck was lightweight. You could go off-roading and go anywhere because it was nimble. It could turn sharp and take advantage of its size. And again, the Ford Raptor first generation is still a truck that when you see it on the road today, it turns head. In 2017, they updated the Ford Raptor, but much to people's disappointment, they ditched the V8, but they did it in the name of power. They dropped in the 3.5 liter twin turbo V6 EcoBoost engine that Ford has made famous over the last 10 years, which put out over 450 horsepower. So even the truest that loved their V8s didn't care too much because the new Ford Raptor had so much more power and so much more performance. And then in 2021, we got this. This is the third generation Raptor. Mind you, this is a facelifted Ford Raptor, so let's call this one a 3.5 generation and is the most up-to-date and most current offering from Ford. Now, although the performance features of this Ford F-150 Raptor have now had some competition creep in, and the numbers might not be as impressive as they once were. If you love Ford trucks, this is the best Ford truck they make, and I can't wait to tell you all about it.
I'm Jeff Batchelor, and I love cars. I love the look, I love the design, and I love the emotion that you feel. I love the history, brand stories, marketing strategy, and automotive trends. I love engineering, types of propulsion, engine specs, drivetrain, and performance, and I love the interiors, layouts, smell, and the gizmos and gadgets and bells and whistles. But I don't only love cars, I also sell them. If you love this content and want to chat about a purchase, text me at 416-523-6585. Now back to the video.
So this is a Ford F-150 Raptor, and we know already that the Ford F-Series of trucks is the #1 selling truck in the entire world. That's right. And just because they sell the most doesn't mean that they're the best trucks on the market. But again, if you are looking for a Ford, this is the best of the best. It sits atop the entire Ford lineup. This is better than the Platinums, better than the Limiteds, better than the Tremors. This Raptor is the king of trucks if you're into your Fords. And the name Raptor, even before the dinosaur reference came to play, it's also a bird of prey, and man, did this thing ever destroy everything else on the competition. Now, when you get a Ford Raptor these days, there's a few different ways that you can option your Ford Raptor. The standard version, which this one is, a Ford Raptor 37, which comes with bigger tires and different suspensions, and you can even get a Ford Raptor R, which has an all new different powertrain underneath the hood, intended to compete with vehicles like the Ram TRX. Now, as I mentioned, the Ford Raptor does have some competition. It might have taken over 15 years, but if you are looking for high performance, luxury, Baja trucks, we have the Ram RHO, which is a twin turbo 6-cylinder truck intended to fight this Ford Raptor. However, the Ram version puts out 540 horsepower, where the Ford version only puts out 450 horsepower. Above this, Ram has the TRX, which is a 700 horsepower supercharged V8. Well, Ford has the Raptor R, which is a 700 horsepower supercharged V8. So when it comes to getting an off-road, Baja, high-performance, luxury, top-of-the-end truck, there finally is some competition. But again, each of them have their strengths, so I'll let you pick the winner by the end of the video. All right, so underneath the hood, we have Ford's 3.5 liter twin turbo V6 engine, and this engine puts out 450 horsepower and 510 feet-pound of torque. Now, even though I washed this vehicle and had the outside ready, I did not get the engine bay ready. This is full of dust and dirt, but you can still see all the massive air intakes feeding air into the turbos, as well as the fact that the hood has real vents to get the heat out of the hood, which is very important when you have a turbocharged engine. Now, this vehicle can do a 0 to 60 in about 5.6 seconds. It'll do a quarter mile in about 12.5 seconds. And this 6,000-pound beast still has some impressive tow ratings as well. 1,400 pound of payload, as well as 8,000 pounds of towing. So take your Ford Raptor to the trail, take your Ford Raptor to the track, and even take your Ford Raptor to the campsite with your camper and your family. All right, now let's talk exterior styling. And this is where I might get some haters in the comment, because I feel like the first generation Ford Raptor was always the best looking one. And the second generation Ford Raptor, well, it was the second best looking one. And this all new third generation Ford Raptor, well, it is slightly neutered and doesn't have the growl and the presence of the first one. Now, maybe that's just because I've gotten used to seeing these on the roads, but the Ford Raptor used to have body panels that protruded way outside the size of a normal one. And even though this truck still has it, with the new body lines and styling and colors, it really doesn't look as aggressive as I believe that it once did. In fact, even the fender flares you see on a Ford Raptor just look like somebody just went down a Canadian Tire, bought some plastic fender flares, and threw them on just a regular F-150. But this is not a regular F-150, and Ford has done a lot to make sure that this truck doesn't compare to anything else in their lineup. Now, first and foremost, this is the Ford Raptor hood, and it looks awesome. I love the plastic cowling up by the window, which again encases that big massive engine that you have underneath the hood. I'm not so much a fan of the decals, but again, they're decals, so if you don't like them either, you can just peel them off as well. As we move down to the grille, this is the only Ford model that doesn't have a blue oval on the front. Instead, we get this big, bold Ford font that goes across the grille. Now, Ford has also made sure that this grille is slightly different size than all the other Ford grills, so you can't buy this grill and just go toss it into just a regular F-150. Now, another thing that I love about the styling of this truck are the marker lights that they've actually integrated right into the grille. Not only do you have the marker lights in the grille, but you also have them on the fenders, not only in the front and the back. This also makes this truck have a lot of presence and really command a whole lot of attention. And then as we move down, we get the good off-road stuff. You get the skid plating, but again, Ford decided to paint this front bumper rather than leave it a powder coated texture, which again, if you're going to be off-roading this truck as it's intended, it's really leaving a very pretty surface up for scraping and scratches and getting bumps and bruises. So I think that should have been a powder coated texture, much like Ram does on their Rebel trucks and their TRXs, okay? Down below, we got two fog lights, and if you're wondering why one of them has a cover on it, well, it's actually for the highway regulations. You aren't allowed to have that many fog lights or that brightness of fog lights. Now, along the side of this truck, you can see the truck comes from the factory with some massive 35-inch BF Goodrich KO2 tires. These are the same tires that I use on my Wrangler, and they are fantastic. Now, you can option your Ford Raptor with bigger 37-inch tires, but this one just has the standard one. Also, holding the tire on is just the standard rim as well. Again, it's a good looking rim, nothing to poke fun of in there. And then down behind, you can see the dual reservoir active suspension that this Ford Raptor has. Now, this Ford Raptor is known to be capable of taking jumps and taking flight. So we've got some really fancy suspension, which helps this Ford not only have great road manners, but also perform really good if it's racing the Baja 1000. Now, down along the side of the truck as well, we can actually see this big, thick, wide Ford off-road running board. I always thought that that was a really nice element of this truck. Now, something I do love about F-150s is I do love the way that the window actually slopes down. That was inspired by big rig trucks, because when you're sitting in a big, tall truck, you can't see vehicles sitting next to you. So that dip in the window is so that you can see all the peasants in their Honda Civics and regular old cars pulling up next to you in the blind spots of your big, brawny Ford F-150 Raptor. So front to back, you can tell that this Ford F-150 stands apart from all the other Ford F-150s, especially from this rear quarter angle. You can see that that front fender is bigger and wider than a typical front fender, as well as has a massive, really thick plastic fender flare on there to enhance the big giant wheels that this F-150 has. Now, even though the driver and the passenger door are the same doors you get on a typical F-150, once we come around to the tailgate, you have another extra large, extra wide fender that has an extra large, extra wide plastic fender flare on it as well. Now, just like the hood, I'm not necessarily a fan of the decals on this truck, but again, they're decals, so you can peel them off at any time. Now, as we move around to the back, we have the all-new taillights that Ford is putting on all their premium trucks. Now, I personally believe that a taillight on a truck should be bold and static and have sharp angles and be square or rectangular or have some circles in them or something, whereas this new taillight design from Ford, to me, just kind of looks like a ponytail. Anybody else agree? Make sure you post in the comments. And then we come around to the rear of this Ford Raptor truck, where we see the big exhaust tips, where you can hear an all-new exhaust system for this truck, which they've tuned to sound magnificent. Also, on the tailgate, we get the large Ford font script to match the Ford script that's in the grille, and it's also flanked with this black trim that goes taillight to taillight, which again really makes the back of this truck look really nice. Now, down below, we get some of that powder coated steel that I wish we had in the front bumper, but at least they got it back here, and it's a great setup as well. All right, now let's talk interior of your Ford F-150 Raptor. Ford has done an incredible job elevating the interior of this truck to stand apart from all the other F-150s. Now, because I work at a Ram dealership and I've seen how nice interiors can be, I might be a little bit critical of this interior, but rest assured, if you pick up a Ford F-150 Raptor, you're still gonna love the attention to detail that Ford put into here. When we start on the door sills, we've got this gorgeous red accent stitching. We've got different printed plastics in here. I'm not convinced that it's carbon fiber one little bit. And we do have a nice aluminum speaker cover, which are the nice parts about this door. However, where your arm rests, the top of the door sills are still really tough and hard. And I don't know why Ford in the last 10 or 15 years hasn't decided to make a more premium door sill to go into their trucks. As we move along to the seats, we have synthetic leather that still feels like synthetic leather, a little bit like school bus seats, but is very well stitched, very well bolstered, and the Alcantara accents on the seat and the sides are really nice. I also really love the fact that Raptor is embossed right into the seat back. I've seen other Ford Raptors where I've seen the word Raptor stitched into the armrest. I'm not too sure why this one doesn't have it, but maybe it's just an option package, okay? And then as we look at the layout of the dash, this is a 3.5-year generation Ford Raptor. So this actually has the new dash layout that all Fords have. I really like the 3rd generation when the driver instrument cluster and the main infotainment screen were separate. When it's all together in one big bulky piece, it really feels like it overwhelms you. It's really tall to look over the dash. And again, I just really wish the 3rd generation dash was still the one that they used. So again, when it comes to the interior of this truck, again, Ford owners will not be disappointed because this is better than any other Ford truck. But for those people that are purchasing this truck because they're just looking for something ultra premium, you'll know that the feel of a Denali, the look of a Ram, or pretty much any Mercedes or BMW absolutely trump this interior. So don't expect that you're going to have that type of interior in your Ford Raptor. All right, now, fit and finish aside, there's a lot of stuff that I love about Ford vehicles. Most exciting is the wake up animations and graphics. Ford does an amazing job making sure that you're greeted with these exciting graphics and animations every time you turn the vehicle on. Also, getting comfortable in your Ford Raptor is really quite easy. You've got a lot of nice seat adjustments on the left-hand side of the seats, and as well as the ability to program not 1, not 2, but actually 3 different memory settings. With those memory settings, you can not only save your seats, but you can save the mirrors, you can save the power pedal adjustments, and you can also save a power tilting and telescopic steering wheel. There's finally something the Raptor can do that the Ram can't. When you look at the steering wheel, it's beautiful with accent red stitching. On some Ford Raptors, I've seen the center area actually accented in red as well, which really gives the truck a nice race feel to it. In fact, on the steering wheel, the nicest part of this entire interior are these paddle shifters that are actual metal that feel nice and even make a nice little noise when you touch them. This is probably the nicest part of anything in this entire truck. Now, on the steering wheel, we've got a lot of buttons to go through, so I'm just going to go through them from left to right. On the top left-hand side of the steering wheel, you have an R button, which allows you to immediately go into a custom R mode that you have set up. So this is the way that you've set up your suspension, your exhaust, your drive modes, and once you've played with that in the settings, just holding this button will save that drive mode into that R button. So at any time, you tap that button and instantly you are in R mode. Now, right around that R mode button, you have all the buttons associated with your adaptive cruise control and your lane centering. Now, I've been driving this Ford for a few days, and these systems are absolutely fantastic. When the systems are on and activated, that does a really good job of keeping this big, massive, wide truck in between the road lines and keeping you safe while you're driving down the highway. Below that, you have the volume buttons for your radio, as well as your answer or voice command button on your steering wheel. So this cluster up in the top left corner, this allows us to navigate through all the functions of the fully digital color instrument cluster. Down below, we have our buttons to change stations or tracks in the infotainment system, but these three buttons, these are my favorite. And I think Ford did an amazing job by deciding to put these buttons right on the steering wheel. The top one actually allows you to change the handling of this truck. Down below, the suspension, you have an instant ability to change how this truck rides. And then down below, we have our exhaust mode. All right, now let's talk about this fully digital color instrument cluster. Now, although there isn't a lot of configurability, I'm not upset because I actually really like the way that it's laid out. On the left-hand side, we've got our tachometer, and then bright and bold in the middle, you'll see if you're in park, reverse, neutral, or drive. And then on the right-hand side, we got a big, bold speedometer with the speed that you're actually going posted right in the middle. Now, also in the bottom right-hand corner, really small, you're actually going to get the posted speed limit, which is nice that Ford's found a way to integrate that into the instrument cluster right next to the speedometer. Now, all the way low down on the bottom, there's some other unique stuff here. Next to the PRNDM, you can actually see what mode your steering is in. You can see what mode your suspension is in, and you can actually see what mode your exhaust is in. So without going into it, you've got little animations in the bottom corner that let you know that. And then down in the bottom, in the middle, you actually get your media. So your radio station or your Bluetooth or your songs that are playing are actually listed right there. In the middle, we actually have your driver assist mode, which visually shows you how close your truck is to the sides, you know, what functions the vehicle is performing if it's trying to slow you down because there's a vehicle too close to you in front. This is all really, really well laid out, and I love how Ford did it. Now, I can change what shows up in the middle section. If I'd rather have fuel economy, I'd like to set up my heads-up display. I'd like to go into my Raptor information page, which will show me off-road status, pitch and roll, and a few other things. But this main menu is really, really nice to see and use. And again, it's not very tough to put different information in this center section, even though I can't change what's on the exterior. Now, another thing that I really, really love about this truck is the heads-up display, and the amount of information displayed in the heads-up display is pretty awesome. Now, I talked about the starting graphic being something that I really love that Ford does well, but also your drive modes. When I put it into normal, it shows my beautiful Ford Raptor sitting there right next to the speedometer. One more click, I can put it into sport mode, and I can see that the lights are bright and it's racing down a track. It also changes the color of the graphics on the instrument cluster as well. I also have a tow mode, which shows me towing a trailer. Again, these graphics look amazing. And then I also have a slippery when wet mode, which, you know, could also be used for snowy surfaces. And again, graphically displayed is my Ford Raptor driving down snowy surfaces. The other way, I can move into my off-road mode 1, okay, which again puts the truck into 4x4. It actually pulls up my forward-facing camera, which is a really nice feature, and pulls up a compass into the instrument cluster. All the instrument clusters, graphics, displays, and contents seem to change when you put the vehicle into a different drive mode. And then when I put it into Baja mode, it again tells me to contact my owner's manual and again shows the driving dynamics of my trucks, and again simplifies my display to just having my tachometer and my speed. Again, Ford does such a great job, again, making sure that this truck not only feels and performs different in the different drive modes, but we also get these really cool graphics to look at as well. Another really cool Ford Raptor feature are these ceiling mounted auxiliary switches. Now there is a switch bank located in the fuse box, which makes installing aftermarket lights super easy. Plus, I love having these toggle switches, much like as if I was in a helicopter or an airplane and getting ready to take off for flight. We've got a standard sunglass holder, we've got a button to open the power sliding rear window, and then the buttons up front operate the power sunroof as well as the interior LED lighting. All right, so let's cover the rest of the buttons in this Ford F-150 Raptor. We've got our automatic start stop. We have the ability to instantly access all your cameras. Ford always does an amazing job with their camera systems, and I love that there's a button that I can instantly view everything around my vehicle. Then we have our park assist button. Again, this ginormous 6,000-pound truck can actually park itself. So even if you bought a truck bigger than you can handle, don't worry, Ford's got you covered with the automatic parking. Then we've got our hazards, our traction control, and then the final one is actually for an off-road cruise control mode, which actually allows you to focus on just the steering as the truck will slowly crawl through off-road terrain. Down below, we see this massive 12-inch Ford Connect infotainment screen. This thing is very user-friendly, as you can get your music, your phone, and your nav pulled up very easily. The system is very responsive and very quickly. You also get an auxiliary screen over on the right-hand side, so the ability to put a second piece of information up there. And deciding what shows up there is super easy, because you get toggle switches to go up and down on what shows up over there. Another feature I really like about this infotainment system is when I do select CarPlay, it fills up the entire screen. So I really like when I'm able to have my Apple CarPlay fill up the entire part of the infotainment screen. On the left-hand side, we've got your trailer control. So this actually allows you to do steering for your trailer as you're backing up. And then down below, we have physical buttons for your trailer brake control, a button to lock your rear diff, a dial to change your drive modes, and then buttons to change the vehicle from two-wheel high to four-wheel high, four-wheel automatic, and four-wheel low. Another really nice thing about this truck is the amount of things you have direct access to with a physical button. Again, you still have a volume knob, which are disappearing on some vehicles, but you have a direct button to get right into your audio settings. So if you need to crank up the bass or turn down the treble, it's only one button away to access that. We've also got physical buttons to get directly to your different modes, and we also have a direct button which puts your entire infotainment screen into its quiet mode. Down below, we got physical buttons for your climate control. There are no climate controls in the infotainment system, something that Ford does a little bit differently than other car brands, but you have buttons for your heated seat, your heated steering wheel, your ventilated seat, and a paddle to turn up and down the fan speed on your climate control. Below that, we get a really nice, unique compartment, which houses a wireless charging pad, a USB, and a lightning charge port, which is great for your phone. And then next to that, a nice slot to hold your phone if it's not in the charging pad, and something that's very unique, a center console shifter, which is actually retractable. Now you may ask, why would it be important for my center console to be retractable? And that's because Ford has come up with a system where your center console folds out into a flat surface. This is perfect for those that are on job sites that are looking for a flat surface to either write, use their laptops, or chow down on a Big Mac. And just because we have this fold-out center console doesn't mean that we don't have a ginormous, cavernous storage compartment underneath the console. You'll also have charge ports in here and a removable coin tray, but again, there is tons and tons of storage for front seat occupants. And the last storage compartment for front seat occupants is this secondary glove box, which is just hidden away with a nice little access button on the left-hand side. All right, now moving around to the back seat of your Ford F-150 Raptor. Ford owners have been spoiled for years with this massive back seat, which is great. You've got the same synthetic leather that you had in the front seat with these same Alcantara suede inserts and even the Raptor embossed on the back seats. So that is a really cool move that Ford decided to do. These rear seats are also heated, which is nice, and they also have the option to flip up and they actually lock up. So no matter what you're doing, these seats will not come down unless you tug on the handle on the side. Now, Ford has also come up with a convenience floor storage space, which just pops up and into place. And then that allows you to have a separate compartment that tucks in under the seats that you can keep belongings in and they won't be rolling all over your truck. Another nice thing that I see is Ford has actually put two different cup holders on the door. A really tiny one up top, which you know is for juice boxes. So when you have your kids in the back seat, they've got a cup holder that's still within reach of their arms. And then another one a little lower down. However, it's kind of blocked by the speaker. So I'm not really too sure what you're going to be able to put in that one. And one other really nice thing about the back seat of this Ford F-150 Raptor is you have not only one, not two, but actually 4 different power outlets in the back seat. So this will keep any little ones in the back seat and their devices charged. And if they look up, you also get a beautiful dual pane panoramic sunroof that spans all the way to the back of the truck. So again, even the little ones in the back seat can stargaze when you're driving around at night. Now back here at the tailgate, there's a couple things that Ford has done really well. One, I love that Ford actually has an perimeter lighting right here in the box. Not only can you light up the tailgate light, but both of the mirrors have exterior lighting that you can turn on at any time. This way, if you're setting up a campsite at night or it's a Fort McMurray winter and it's dark at 3 p.m. in the afternoon, you can light up around your truck, which certainly comes in handy a lot. Now, this truck also has a power down as well as a power up tailgate, which is a really handy feature as well. You can operate it from the key fob or from the buttons right on the tailgate handle. Also, we have Ford's famous old man step, because sometimes getting into a big giant truck can be difficult. So this is the 3rd generation of Ford's tailgate step, which works really well, slides out smoothly, has a handle to help you as well too, and all this operates super easy without much thought or care in it as well. And then last party trick back here in the tailgate is this is also Ford's workbench tailgate is what they call. So as you can see is on the tailgate, they actually have 1 ruler in inches, 1 ruler in centimeters. So if you are actually using the tailgate of your truck just to cut some wood, trim some pipes, or do some odd jobs, you can actually use your truck as a workbench. There's cutouts on each side to hold seat clamps so that can hold that material right down to your vehicle. There's also a little pouch here to hold your cell phone in place while you're working back here. And after a long day on the job, they've actually included a bottle cap so you can crack open a cold one, sit on your tailgate, and enjoy the rest of your evening. So in the world of high performance, brawny, beefy super trucks that can take jumps and also comfort and cradle you inside, Ford does an amazing job. In fact, Ford has always been innovative, coming out with technology, options, and features before every other truck company comes out with it. And even though there are some competitors that put out more power and have faster vehicles that are taller, wider, and maybe have a more luxurious interior, this truck is still super impressive. And Ford has been doing it better than everybody else for so long. The Ford Raptor can still hang with the best of the trucks, and the Ford Raptor is the best truck in the entire Ford lineup. So all you Ford owners, be happy. Ford is just getting better and better every single year. The Ford Raptor is here to stay, and it's still here to tear up the trails.